Hey everybody, welcome back. It's so good to be with you again. I'm going to knock out 17, 18, 19, and 20 tonight in this episode. And that way, that'll set us up for our last episode where I will record live with the patrons, which I'm really excited about. So if you're one of the Patreon supporters, I'm excited to knock out the last few with you in a live tasting via Discord call. That'll be great. If you want to get involved with that, make sure you check out the links in the description and pinned comment for Patreon. But other than that, we don't need an introduction. We just need to crank through these things. We're almost done. And then we'll get back to some other kinds of content on the channel, which I'm really excited about. Also, don't judge me. I'm in shorts because I've been doing a bunch of work around the house, and it was kind of toasty in here. My wife likes it hot in the house. But then now I'm down in my office, and I got I like it cool in my office, so I'm in shorts. But I've also got my flannel fleece-lined jacket, too. So I look weird, and I'm just going to roll with it. I'm being really bare and open and honest with you guys. But let's go right in on number 17 here. 40% AB. Have I missed this the whole time? It says on the vial, product of Ireland. So I've been sniffing these and kind of trying to figure out where they come from on the nose and on the palate blind. I didn't realize it says it right there. What a derp. But the ABV is 40%. So this is 80 proof. That kind of takes the fun out of it. I'm not going to look at the other ones then. I kind of like not knowing. You know? I kind of like not knowing. This is number 17. I know it's an Irish. I know it's 80 proof. We had another 80 proof Irish in the last lineup, didn't we? It was like that quintessential Irish whiskey that they did. I mean, it definitely smells Irish. I mean, it smells like a Redbreast a little bit. Not the 12, the younger one. On the nose, I get a lot of those same notes. Like that shortbread, you know? That sweet shortbread, dessert pastries. It's very bright, you know, and you get those like citrusy fruits off of it too. Almost like a faint scent of peaches in there. Let's go in on it. I mean, what can I say? It tastes like an Irish whiskey. There is absolutely nothing about that is remotely offensive to the palate. Although it almost finishes with a burn that's a little more than I expected on an 80 proof. But it's got some oil. I think the thing that sets this one apart is this one has a little bit more of a viscous mouthfeel to it. But yeah, shortbread, cookies, honey, citrus. It's beautiful. It's lovely. There's nothing about that has a chance to offend you. Yeah, very delicate, very approachable, very crushable. I have nothing bad to say about biscuits. A little bit of biscuits on the finish. Let's see what it is. It's called Writer's Tears. Copper pot, Irish whiskey. Copper pot seems a little redundant. That's literally what Irish whiskey is like done in, is copper pot stills. Floral, lemon, spice, said citrus, spicy, honey, malted barley, sweet, marmalade. Yeah, I can see that. Irish Golden Tears. Walsh whiskey set out to rediscover real Irish-style whiskey as it was made 200 years ago. When Walsh whiskey first started in 1999, they contracted their distilling to Bushmills. Oh, okay. But their success has allowed them to build their own distillery in Carlow, in the heart of Ireland's southern farm country. How about that? Where they make 8 versions of the Irishman whiskey's 6 Writer's Tears blends and 2 varieties of Irish cream liqueur. Oh, that's kind of cool. This is a blend of single pot still and malt whiskey. Okay. It is distilled in the same old tradition that has existed in Ireland for hundreds of years. Triple distilled, 100% pure pot still whiskey, no grain, matured in oak bourbon barrels, non-chill filtered. Well, there you go. Like I said, it tasted like a quintessential Irish, and I think they nailed it. I think if their goal was just to stick to what made Irish whiskey great, I think they knocked this one out of the park. I'd actually maybe contest that. I like kind of that oily mouthfeel. I feel like they could have gotten a little bit more of that if they bumped this up to like 45%, you know, like a 90 proof, or even like a 86 proof, instead of down at an 80. But, you know, if they're just trying to do your quintessential Irish, 80 proof is really just right in the wheelhouse there. So I totally understand it. I think that's pretty tasty. Nothing about that is bad. Let's move on to number 18. I'm not going to look at... I'm literally holding my thumb over the top of the label because I don't want to see where it's from. but it is 47.5% ABV. That's 95 proof. All right. Ooh, the color's much darker, richer. Oh my. Sweet butterscotch on the nose right away. And like a yellow flesh fruit, like a nectarine or something, you know? Very bright and caramely. That butterscotch really pungent. But yeah, nectarines, maybe even apricot. A very bright, fruity nose on that. Well, let's check it out. Now that is peculiar. Huh. Almost like a circus peanut candy up front. Heavy oak influence on the finish. Toasted. So doesn't taste so much charred as it does toasted. On the finish, I get some of those same notes that I get out of like a Woodford Reserve double oaked. That's kind of, I mean, honestly, oh shoot, I forgot to rate the Irish. 3.5 on the Irish. 3.5 on the Irish. If I saw that for a good price, I might pick that up. This one, this is peculiar. But it's interesting enough that I can appreciate the work that went into creating these flavors. But yeah, a yellow flesh fruit on the front, very strong toasted oak on the finish. Let us see what you are, number 18. That circus peanut influence, it's kind of sticking with me too. San Luis Valley straight rye whiskey, floral, perfumed, orange peel, black tea. That's an interesting note. Toffee, figs. Salty. Huh. A great grain to glass rye whiskey with a distinct flavor profile. I do agree, distinct flavor profile. Law's Whiskey House has become a fixture on the Denver scene. Okay, so Colorado. Was founded in 2011 by Alan Laws when he quite rightly fled the world of high finance and capital marketers to put his life to better use, making fine-aged spirits. I totally agree. That's a great call. Today, their lineup includes 3 bourbons, 3 ryes, and 6 special edition fiddly things. What does that even mean? Growth has been so strong that this small craft distillery located in the Mile High City has achieved national distribution deals and come to the rapt attention of whiskey fans and awards committees. They source sweet winter rye from the Cody family farm in the San Luis Valley. This means the rye grows at 8,000 feet above the sea in an arid and dry climate with dramatic temperature changes. That's interesting. Turns out rye absolutely loves that. Well, rye will grow anywhere. That's why it's often used as a cover crop, actually, because it'll grow anywhere and then you can just plow it under. This makes for distinct and full-bodied flavors in this whiskey with notes of orange peel, black tea, salted toffee, stewed fig, and sweet mint. It's aged for at least 3 years, which extracts even more bold flavors from the barrels. I like this. That's very peculiar. They have achieved something fairly unique, I think, in this whiskey for a straight rye. Non-age stated straight rye, so you know it's at least 2 years. It said 3 though in the blurb. But yeah, they've accomplished something there that I think is quite unique. I'd give that maybe a 4. I'd pick that for a good price. I'd pick that up. Share it with friends. Give them a unique experience when they come over. But overall, I think that was a very delightful glass of whiskey. Alrighty, we're moving on. I'm going to cover up where it's from again. 46%. So, okay. Jumping up to 92 proof here. That's kind of the sweet spot for a lot of whiskeys for me. If they're not like barrel aged or single barrel, batch proof, whatever. That the low 90s proof point I like. Very different nose on this one. While the last one was sweet butterscotch and yellow flesh fruits on the nose, this one smells a little bit more like clean, medicinal, minty, floral. Those are more of the notes I'm getting off of this on the nose. But there is a sort of underlying sweetness to it. Like it just unrolled and opened a roll of sweet tarts or something. Somewhat dusty too. Let's go in. Now that is an interesting sip. Heavy oak on the finish, which makes me think this isn't like a first fill situation. This tastes to me like it was aged in virgin oak cooperage. If it wasn't, they got a lot of oak influence from a barrel that had already been used. It maintains a certain dryness all the way through it. This tannic dryness to it. But it's sweet up front, but not like your rich sweetness like a caramel, roasted caramel. More like a brown sugar, you know, before it's been cooked or rendered down. But there's that oak influence that normally the oak is strong on the finish, but it's throughout the entirety of this one. It's certainly interesting. A little bit of anise in there too, but it's not so dry that it has no sweetness to it. There's sweetness in all parts of it. That's an interesting sip. What are you? That is a Japanese whiskey. Japanese rice whiskey. No way. That says 40% ABV. The vial says 46. But it does say Japan on. Now that I'm looking at the label, there must be a disconnect there. Because this says alcohol by volume is 46%, but in the write-up here it says a 40% ABV. Spicy oak, figs, nutty, butterscotch. Yeah, I totally agree. We call it the god of Japanese rice whiskey. The Kumesen Distillery, Kumesen Syuzo, I'm going to butcher that, I apologize, I know I didn't say that right, was founded in Okinawa, Japan in 1952. Their first product was awamori, a shochu beverage distilled from special indica rice and served at 30 to 40% ABV. Then in 1989, they began to age their awamori in oak casks. See, oak casks, yeah, creating a rice-based whiskey. The products are exceptionally popular in the Japanese islands, and the rich flavors of their signature spirits are building a global fan base. That's cool. That's really what America did, honestly. Coming out of the Revolutionary War, we used to really be a rum-based liquor industry, but it was all import-export. We bought the molasses from the Central American colonies at the time and distilled it into rum, but we weren't growing our own spirit. So we decided that we really needed to have our own market on our own spirit with grain grown in our own land, and that's where the rye whiskey sort of took off, and then corn whiskey, which turned into bourbon, and then we kind of made our own mark in the whiskey world because of it. So this is kind of a cool story. I totally respect that. You think of Japan, you think of rice, obviously. So if rice is what they're raising and they're making whiskey out of it, and it tastes this good, why wouldn't you lean into that? That's pretty cool. You know what? I respect that. You know what? I'm going to give that a 4. Because I don't have anything like it on my shelf. I don't have a rice whiskey that I could give to somebody and be like, you know what? You've never had rice whiskey before, but this tastes good. I don't have any of that up there. So if I saw this for a decent price on the shelf, I might pick that up and share it with somebody. I think that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. And now we move on to the last one. This is 41%. That's interesting, 41. So 82 proof. It's got a good color to it. You know what I respect is about the Flaviar Advent Calendar is that it's providing me a lot of new experiences with things I never would have tried otherwise. Like I probably wouldn't have been out there buying rice whiskey. But I'm excited to have tried it and enjoyed it. The nose on this, quite different than the nose on the others so far. Sweet and fruity on the nose with a little bit of a smoke to it. But when I say fruity, let me clarify, like grape juice and raisins. Raisin coming through very strong on the nose there, with a subtle smokiness to it. Some maltiness too. Now that is different. It drinks like a malt whiskey, like a malted barley, but that raisin note is very strong on it. Even the finish is not so much oaky. A lot of especially American aged spirits finish really oaky because American whiskey, if it's going to be bourbon or rye, is aged in virgin oak barrels that have been charred, and so that influence comes through really strong. The finish on this doesn't taste oak forward or wood forward at all. It literally finishes like the smell of a box of raisins. Like if you were to open up one of those little boxes of raisins, you know what I mean? That's what it finishes like. But that sweet maltiness is in there too, almost like you would get off of an Irish, that pastry, the shortbread cookie too, dessert pastry, some honey in there. I feel like that has to be malted barley base, which means it could be Irish. It could, there's a lot of people doing that. There's American single malts that are now exploring using malted barley as the primary ingredient. You've got obviously Irish and Scotch whiskeys that do that as their hallmark. You've got Japanese whiskey that does malted barley because that's really how they started in the whiskey industry. We've got Indian single malts that are doing malted barley. So God knows where this came from. But it's tasty. I don't dislike it. Nova single malt whiskey. Well, there you go. I was right on the malt. But where are you from? Top malt from down under. No way, Australian? Fruit, red berries. I said raisin. Yeah, oak, spicy tropical fruits, dry, sweet, savory, vanilla. Melbourne is famous for its insane weather where all 4 seasons present themselves in one day like it's a demo. I've never been to Melbourne, but I did spend a summer in Australia, in Brisbane, and I loved it. Loved the culture there. It was really fun. But while such changes may be obnoxious to people, they're perfect for maturing booze. That is absolutely correct, yeah. Wide swings in temperature is great for aging whiskey because it forces the whiskey in the barrel to, enter into the wood and then condense again, back out of the wood, into the wood, out of the wood, into the wood, out of the wood. And every time it goes in, it grabs things and brings it with it out of that red layer, especially those caramelized sugars, the vanillins, things like that. David Vitale, Melbourne native, established the Starward Distillery in 2007. He sources his barley from the nearby farms, while the maturation barrels come from vineyards in Victoria. Starward's whiskey spends 2 years only in red wine barrels, but the crazy climate accelerates the process in Melbourne years. Their spirits are unique and unmistakably Aussie. That's interesting. And that's one of the things a lot of people get wrong about whiskey, is they think that the age statement of the whiskey is the be-all, end-all indicator of quality, and that's just simply not true. So a lot of people be like, why would I drink a straight bourbon that's got a 4-year age statement on it when for the same price tag I could have a 12-year scotch? Well, there's a good reason for that. Because if that bourbon stayed in that barrel for 12 years, it would be syrup and it would be nasty. Why? Because the climate dictates when the whiskey is done. Whiskey is done when it's done, right? It's done when it's done. And so if that's 12 years, great. If that's 4 years, great. So over in Scotland, the temperature differences aren't as in the stark contrast like they are in some place like Kentucky. So if you're aging bourbon in Kentucky, and you get those hot summers and the cold winters, and that whiskey is rapidly going in and out of the barrel, in and out of those staves, and they're making that trip more frequently, then it's done faster. And the same thing is true for the Scotch whiskey. It's doing those same journeys from in the barrel to into the staves to into the barrel to into the staves. So it's doing it much more slowly. So it's ready when it's ready. And that's interesting that this is only 2 years. There's only 2 years in those barrels. But because the weather is so harsh there, it's making that journey very rapidly. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. So it's ready when it's ready, and they deemed that it was ready after 2 years. That's really interesting. Now, the oakiness that was imparted on that is impressive for only 2 years in a used wine barrel. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I'm going to give it a 3. That was not a bad night of whiskey, was it? We've dished out some 1s during this process. None tonight. These were all pretty solid. The Irish didn't have anything remarkable about it, but it was just a well-executed Irish whiskey, so there's nothing to hate about it. Middle of the road. Which one was this? Oh, that was the Denver Rye. And then this was the Japanese. Yeah, then this was the rice whiskey. All of these were pretty nice. These 3 at least are all very unique. The Irish just tastes like a well-done Irish, but all 3 of these, 18, 19, and 20, have a lot of character to them. And I think would be worth picking up sometime just to say that you've got it on the shelf. If I had to pick one favorite of the night, but I think I'd have to go with the rice whiskey from Japan. Because I've got good Irish on my shelf. I've got good rye on my shelf. While this is a very unique rye, I will admit that. Like, this has a lot of character to it. I liked it a lot. But I have nothing like number 19. I don't have any rice whiskey on the shelf. So if I were to pick up a bottle of any one of these 4, I think that would be it. I don't have any Australian single malts either, and that was really good too. So there's nothing tonight that I dislike. That's a win. So let me know what you thought of these. Which of these stood out to you personally? I'd love to know. Feel free to hit me up in the comments section. I do read all of those. And I'll see you very soon to the patrons who are going to be a part of the next episode live recording. That'll be fun. Looking forward to it. Till then, take care of yourselves. Drink responsibly. May you get better with age and enrich the lives of those around you. Cheers.